Hi designers, it's Haley with Silver Moon Design School, and I'm back today to show you how to create a plastic spray bottle mock-up using Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Dimension. It's perfect for creating the 3D objects that you'll need to put your label designs on, put your graphics on, so that you have a really stunning mock-up to impress your clients, your teacher, your friends, and just have a really stunning portfolio. So if you're ready, let's get started. All right, so first we're going to start out in Illustrator, and I have the reference image right here. This is what we're going to be recreating, and I have that image on a reference layer by itself, and I have it locked so that I can't move it around as I'm creating objects and drawing over it. I have this art layer above the reference layer that I will be working with. So I'm going to start with the base and kind of work my way up. First, I'm going to turn on my rulers, hitting Command R, and then drag to the center. And if you don't know how to find the center, I also take the rectangle tool and I draw around the width of the bottle, and then you can drag the guide to the center. So now that I have this rectangle, I can also just start modifying it into the shape that I need. So I'll take my scissors tool and snip so that we have an open shape, and then moving my anchor points around to create that final look. So I'm dragging the lines all the way down. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of imagining because of the angle of the photo. So I'll show you how I approach that. So I'm going to curve in the corner here because I know that's how it looks, and then I also know that this will kind of bubble in, right? That's kind of the look, so that there's a little bit of a gap. So I'm just going to add some anchor points and kind of tweak everything around. So I know that this kind of comes down, and we're just making those curves match what the bottle is doing. And we're just creating one half of it for now. Okay, I think that's going to be pretty close. And then I also want to curve the top here to give it that rounded look. Okay, next I'm going to create the straw in the center. So same thing, using my rectangle tool, and next I'm going to create the spout here in the bottom. So I'm going to trace here to create the little nozzle piece, and then tweak these anchor points just to give it a little bit of like a molded plastic look so it's not so sharp. I will keep the top sharp though. And that is that. Next, I'm going to use my pencil tool because I want to create this curve. I want the straw, yeah, I guess it's a straw, right? I want the straw to match and not be like so perfect because it's kind of got this wobble to it. And I want to make sure that that's represented in the final. So I'm going to use my pencil tool and then the smooth tool just to give it a little bit of a smoothness while still being true to that original shape. So just with some tweaks, I think we got it. And then I'm going to make the stroke really, really thick. Let me choose a gray actually so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to match the width there. Cool. All right, I'll come back to all these later. I'm just going to create all of the little pencil pieces first. Next we have the grippy part. Let me go ahead and match the thin line. And again, I'm just imagining that we have like a very straight on version of this bottle that we're working with, because the angles sometimes will give us weirdness in reality. So I'm just imagining that we have a very clear cross section of this. Ideally you want to find an example that has it, but we're just rocking with what we've got. And if I wanted to save a little bit of time, I can go ahead, instead of creating each of these pieces individually, I can create this whole spinny nozzle part in one piece, and then I can create that clear plastic, because anything that's going to have the same material and the same color especially, just save yourself some assembly time and dimension and go ahead and create it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add an anchor point there, and I'm going to bring it to this guide in the center, and then add a few because I know that we will use them all. Okay. And this image is kind of low res and it's kind of hard to see, so I am having to make some inferences to figure out what is what. But I think this gives us a pretty good depiction of it. It'll be convincing in the end, and that's all we need. Okay. And again, I just like to curve these just a tad, ever so subtly. It makes a difference in the end. Okay, and I'm going to create the lid that goes over top, and it looks like it matches up down here. So I can just create those lines. And then if I wanted to make it look like it's come out of a mold, I'll just add one anchor point and then just kind of pop this one up ever so slightly. That way it'll give it that, like, you know, it's come off the mold, they like plucked it out of the container kind of look. Okay, and then the other step is to create a circle. So I'm going to hold Option and Shift, drawing an ellipse from the center point until it spans the entire width. So I'm drawing from that guideline out to the edge, because these will be the ridges that will go around this grippy part. And now that I'm looking at it, I might actually make this a little bit more straight up and down so that these ridges will lay evenly once we get to that point. Okay, so now I can go ahead and create my 3D objects now that I have all the pieces drawn. So starting with the outside container, I'm going to choose Revolve from the 3D and Materials menu. And I'm going to choose white so we have a better grasp on what we're seeing. And that is looking good to me. The other thing we can do here is if we needed to, if like everything was clear, we can just drag this opening to where we need it. I'm going to go ahead and do that so that the base is solid, but then the opening is there to connect to all the other pieces. And we're going to follow that same step for all of the pieces that need to be round. So there we have our spray nozzle piece. Okay, and then for the straw, we're going to click on Inflate, and I'm pretty sure this will look good in the final result. You'll also be putting a label over it, and it'll be one of the least of the worries, but make sure that the volume is at 100 and that you have inflate both sides. So, and then we'll adjust the depth to 0, and that will give us this round straw look that has that more organic shape. And then we'll add the material to make it clear in dimension. All right, next we're gonna apply the same revolve to the nozzle part, and I'm just choosing lighter colors so we can see what's going on. You can drag that to the side, and then for the cap, same thing. I think I actually want to add a little bit of a lip here, so that's what I'm gonna do. Just a slight lip. Okay. I'm going to click Revolve, make it a lighter color so we can see that cap. Beautiful. And see how that that little poke up makes it just look a little bit more realistic. I love that. We could apply that here if we wanted, but this one almost like, you know, you've got a little bit of a groove for where your finger would go. So we can add just like one of those to make it feel like it's a little squirtier. Yeah, I like that. The other thing we need to do is create this nozzle. So I'm going to draw a circle with my ellipse tool, and I'm going to click Extrude and make the depth probably like 2 pixels. Add a bevel, and I'm going to choose this square outline, and I'm going to choose this step filter. I'm going to make the width like 18% and the height like 33%. And that will give us the squirty nozzle that we'll embed later. And then to create the ridges that go around this grippy part, I come over to the stroke and click on dashed line. And this is where we get to adjust the gap to like 2 points, and then the gap to like 1 point, maybe 3, and then the dash is like 1, and we're just playing. So I think what I'm going to land on is dash is 2 points, gap is like 1.5 points, and then click on extrude. And you can see that it creates those ridges, and that is what we are looking for. And I still think that they're maybe a little too wide. Let me rotate it up and get a better look. Yeah, so I think I'm going to make the dashes 1 point and then 0.75 for the gap, just so it's a little bit closer together. How about 1 and 1? 1 and 1 is a good mix. And then for the depth, I can choose like 34, and that might be good, but I can also change this once I get into dimension. All right, now we have all of our pieces, and we can highlight all of them, right click and go to collect for export, and then select as multiple assets. There, they'll show up in your asset export panel where you can give them names. And then from the drop-down menu, click on OBJ as the file format, and then click on the export button and save them somewhere handy because you'll need them in part 2. All right, designers, that was part 1. Join me in part 2, where I'll show you how to assemble all of those OBJ files that we just created in Adobe Dimension to continue on with our mockup.